All right. So welcome to the Adaptive Payments Changing How We Pay Past, Present, and Future session. My name is Musab Atteras, and I'm a director in the engineering organization. And my team actually is the team that built Adaptive Payments. A few people that are going to be presenting with us. So we have Khurram Khan, who is our senior product manager for Adaptive Payments. And we have Daryl Hatton, who's an application developer, joining us to demo some of the things that he's done with Adaptive Payments. We also have members of the Adaptive Payments team kind of interspersed in and around the audience. We have Suresh Tekchandani, who's one of the development managers here. So jumping right in, before we do, I guess let me ask, how many people actually were here last year? Oh, okay, good number. And so how many people have actually heard about Adaptive Payments more than just at the sessions? Okay, so for some of it, the beginning at least will be a review as far as what some of the capabilities of Adaptive Payments are, and then we'll start getting into what we've actually launched recently on Adaptive Payments. So, you know, when PayPal came into existence, you had the existing payment networks, the existing payment systems, and one of the reasons why PayPal actually was able to provide some value is because if you look at the way payments are traditionally done, there are a lot of steps in the actual process. From the time you go to a merchant and say, I want to pay with credit card, till the time it actually get an approval, and then till the time it actually returns back. Not to mention all the things with regard to PCI compliance, et cetera, et cetera. And so what you ended up happening was you had these closed systems. They're usually local, regional, a little bit cumbersome, a little bit difficult, at PCI compliance issues. And that was essentially where some of the opportunity has been for PayPal, because we're able to make a global footprint. Essentially, we took what was a little bit out of reach for a lot of people and brought it down to a level where the smaller merchant, the smaller developer could much more easily take and accept payments. So that's all good. That, you know, everyone understands that. The point I want to make is with the PayPal platform, we wanted to take that even a step lower. It's not just traditional merchants anymore. It's anyone who needs to accept payments. And so whether that's a developer who's building a really cool application, or whether that's a really, really small person selling one-off things. And so we're trying to make payments much more accessible to the general people. So in order to do that, we thought to ourselves, well, we'll never be able to identify all the different use cases that people are going to try to do with Adaptive Payments. So how do we make sure that we support enough use cases that sort of build out this general capability so that kind of regardless of what you're doing, there's some way for you to adapt it to your use case. And so we took a look at the right side, the right navigation here, and said, you know what, if we're able to actually support all of these different use cases, if we come up with a solution that works for each and every single one of them, and it all functions within this one suite of payment APIs, then we think we have a good foundation for what people are going to need it for. And then from there, we can continue to grow it from the feedback that you guys provide. And so what we did was we came up with this suite of APIs, and although you're going to start seeing things like send money, parallel, the reality is all of this is being done within one small suite of APIs. And the majority of it is one API called Pay. And so I'll get more into detail as far as what each of these different product sets are, but I just wanted you to keep that in mind. Before we begin talking about the ways that you can move money, I wanted to make sure we were really clear in terms of the terms that we were using. So we referred to the person sending the money as the sender. We don't consider them a buyer because they may not be buying anything. And the person receiving the money is a receiver, not necessarily merchant because they may not be selling anything. And then we differentiate the API caller. Traditionally, the API caller was the merchant. They would put you through an approval flow, and they were the ones who were actually making the API call. That actually doesn't necessarily need to be true. Now with our API, the API caller can be the sender. They could be sending money out of their account, or they could be the receiver, or they could actually be a third party. So just keep that in mind as we go, and the colors and the letters will actually differentiate to you who could actually be in those situations. So basic building block. API wouldn't be really very useful if you could not support send money, and a simple send money between a sender and a receiver. Table stakes, we support it, it's there. Here's a variation of that. So yes, you can facilitate send money, but can you actually send money out of your own account? Yes, as I told you. You could easily send money out of your own account. We actually have a lot of people who are doing this. We have people who are paying a virtual workforce, and so they have employees throughout the world, and they want one simple API which can allow them to pay them no matter where they're at. And so we're seeing, actually, surprisingly, a lot of people use this. Pre-approved payments. We had a lot of people approach us and say, listen, it's not scalable for me every time someone wants to make a payment to have to go and get an approval every single time. I want them to pay multiple times, but it's just not going to work out if they have to do approvals. So we came up with the concept of pre-approvals so that you can actually establish a billing agreement and a relationship with your customers so that you can actually bill them and automatically take money whenever you need to, obviously within constraints. Parallel payments. So here's where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Traditionally, it's one payment. We've kind of broken that. We've now actually allowed people to do, in one request, you can do multiple payments. And so you can think about a situation where you're on a travel website, you want to book your airline travel, a hotel, and a rental car. All three of those come from three distinct businesses. You can do that all at once, and then you can interact with them separately. So for example, you go to get your rental car, it's not there, you want to charge that back. Very easy to do because now these are three separate transactions. There's one thing that I want to point out, and it'll drive the point home on the next slide. If you look at the light blue arrows, each of those is a line of visibility. The sender sees three distinct transactions in their transaction history, and they can interact with them separately. When we go to the next slide, think of these blue arrows as lines of visibility. And this is where I think the game changes a little bit with regard to payments. We're now enabling you, with Adaptive Payments, we enable you to actually take a commission. We've heard from a lot of developers, hey, I'm building such and such an application, but I need to figure out how I can actually get paid as part of the transaction instead of waiting for a month or a week in order to figure out how I can get my money from the primary receiver. We've created an API which allows you to actually send money from a sender to a primary receiver. And then from the primary receiver can pay the different people they have business relationships with, all in one request. And again, if you look at this, the lines of visibility are clear. The sender sees that they paid £100 to a primary receiver. They don't see what happens on the back end. The primary receiver sees the transaction coming in, and they see 2 or 3 or 4 transactions going out on the back end. They are the only one who has visibility into the details of that transaction. This is really, really interesting for commission-based payments. If you look at Bling Nation, I think you guys all got Bling tags, they actually use this integration. When you go to a point of sale and you Bling, essentially, it's a chain payment. The merchant is your primary receiver, and then Bling is an actually secondary receiver. So it's a really good way of monetizing your application. So a lot of times, people ask us, can you combine these? And the answer is yes. If you think of payment and approval as separate, you have approval for a payment, and then you have the way you're doing the payment. Is it chained? Is it parallel? Is it implicit? The reality is you can combine them, and we actually encourage you to combine them. You can combine pre-approval with chained, and you can combine pre-approval with parallel. So real quick summary, you get send money, you get implicit send money, you get pre-approvals, you get parallel, and you get chain payments with Adaptive Payments. So that brings you current with what we've been talking about up until now as far as Adaptive Payments. And so the next thing I want to talk about is what did we recently launch? The first of which is guest payments. We heard a lot of feedback from our developers that, hey, listen, you guys have made payments really easy for me to integrate, but a lot of my customers don't yet know about PayPal. And so they come to the site to pay, and they may not want to create a PayPal account the first time they're there, or even the second time. How can you enable them to allow them to use their credit card? And so we added the capability of guest payments within Adaptive Payments. So now when someone comes to an Adaptive Payments flow, they can pay with their credit card instead of having to pay with a PayPal account. The second one is one, in the last year, I've traveled to so many different developer conferences and talked to so many different developers about chain payments. And as you start talking to them about their use case, one thing becomes really, really clear. They wanted a little bit more control in the chain payment scenario. They're like, listen, it really does do what I need. It allows me to take commission. But if I'm going to be that primary receiver, I want to make sure that my secondary receiver has fulfilled his obligation. So how can I put a brief hold on this secondary transaction while I ensure. Or let's say, for example, you're running a marketplace and you want to make sure that someone's not going to charge back, that they're happy, there's no buyer's remorse. Well, we've introduced the concept of a delayed disbursement. So now you can tell us the whole chain, and then you can say, but wait, put a pause on it, I'll tell you when to process the second leg. And so we've allowed that with delayed disbursements. For up to 90 days, you can say, wait, I'm going to hold on to it, and then execute the rest of the payment. Embedded payments. You guys saw this demo, and Fundraiser is here. Actually, they're going to show you how they implemented this in live. By the way, it was amazingly quick integration for them. They had the redirect capability prior to this, and you'll see that them actually demo the embedded portion. This really creates a really cool in-context experience. When someone is checking out on your site, we've heard this over and over again. Hey, I know PayPal is secure. I know that people want to feel like they're putting their username and password on PayPal.com. We don't want it to happen on a merchant site. We get it. But how can I combine the best of both worlds? How can I make it so that people still feel like they're in the context of what they were doing, whether it was a game, whether it was a purchasing application? And so we really think, based on the feedback that you guys have provided, that having this in-context checkout experience is going to be really, really cool. So we've added that recently. It just launched, just went live literally like a week ago. And I think so far we're hearing a lot of good feedback, and love to hear you guys' feedback on it as well. So, whenever we talk about adaptive payments, one of the things I like to throw in there is, okay, great, I got an idea of what I can do, but let's start ideating a little bit. What are some of the things that you could possibly do? I warn you guys, a lot of these are really, really simple examples. I don't think you want to go off and build some of these. Maybe you do, but they're just meant to kind of incite some discussion and some thought. Don't take them as real-world examples. Maybe some of them. First one, obviously, talk to different people. Hey, if you want to build a social networking widget, some application on Facebook that lets people pay their friends, yeah, you can do that. That's table stakes. It's there. Gaming. Okay, well, can you actually create a game where someone can buy some points, some virtual currency, maybe use the digital goods flow and do microtransactions? Yeah, absolutely. Definitely can. And if you use the inline payment experience, even better. Gaming platform. Okay, well, now let's get a little bit more creative. What about if you want to host a gaming platform? You have thousands of game publishers. They want to be able to launch their games on your platform, and you want to be able to use one currency across all of them, have people be able to buy points and use them across all the different games. Absolutely. And then if you want to actually pay them in a chain payment and take your cut at the same time, most definitely. Payouts and disbursements. I got to tell you, this was the one that surprised me the most. We've had so much demand for implicit send money, and it's still one of our most sought-after integrations. People want to be able to send money out of their PayPal account. They want it to be seamless, and the great thing about it is it's simply one API call and the money moves. There's no web approval required because the API caller and the sender of the money is one and the same. Distributed referral. When we were first launching adaptive payments, before we actually even brought in external developers, we went to Carnegie Mellon University. We grabbed a couple of interns and said, hey, you know what? We're coming out with this feature. Why don't you guys build an application to just kind of test it out? So we had them use an open source shopping cart called Dash Commerce. They took Dash Commerce and they actually built a little cool Microsoft Silverlight widget, which you could drop in different products from any merchant site and then host it on your blog or whatever. And then if someone actually clicked on any of the products, it would send them a referral fee. So it was an instant referral fee that you would get anytime someone purchased an item from your widget. And it was kind of a proof of concept. So it's kind of a neat idea, and it used chain payments to do that. Rent payments. One of my colleagues at work is constantly complaining about how he keeps forgetting to send his rent check, and it would be really cool if there was an application where he could go and just simply set up a payment with a pre-approval and have his monthly rent just come right out of his PayPal account. It's pretty easy to do if someone wanted to do it. And as we're getting to the end here, just wanted to show you a quick name value pair request. Making an adaptive payments call is really easy. We've had several developers come to us and say, hey, you know what, I got it up and running in a day or 2 days. It's relatively pretty clean. If you ever need any help with the integration, if you can go to www.paypal.com developer.com/DTS. We have our developer technical support, which can actually help you out. And lastly, before I turn it over to Khurram, I wanted to show you an interaction model. So we talked about the capability, we talked about the APIs, and you've kind of gotten a glimpse of how the web flow works. How does it all kind of fit together? How do the APIs and the web flows interact? Let's walk through an example. So let's say, for example, you wanted to pay your rent on this rental application. You would go to the rental app, and they would make an API request to us and say, so-and-so wants to pay their rent. Here's the amount, and here's the payment instructions, essentially. We say, great, we got your payment instructions. Here's a pay key. It's a unique identifier for this request. And now the payment instruction portion is done. We now need the approval from the person sending the money. One thing to note before I get into how the approval part happens, if you had a pre-approval, the transaction would be done at this point. All you did was make an API call and the money instantly moved. However, if you don't have a pre-approval, then what you do is you have one of two experiences. You either have the redirect, which redirects a user to PayPal, where they will view the login, they review your payment page, and the approval, and the consent. If you are doing the mini browser, obviously you have your in-context experience. In that mini browser, you would log in, you would again review your payment and approve, and once you did that, the money would move. And you would be redirected back to the calling whatever URL you gave us. We will redirect the user back. Or if it's an in-context window, the window will disappear and you'll be back in the context of what you were doing. And of course, as notifications, we send out IPNs to the merchant as well as the API caller. And we also send out emails confirming to the sender. Pretty simple. And lastly, before I turn it over, just wanted to let you know that we support all the major protocols, MVP, SOAP, JSON, et cetera. And we also have a lot of SDKs. And so if you go to www.x.com, look for the adaptive payments section, you'll find documentation as well as links to the SDKs. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Khurram Khan.
Thank you, Musab. So my name is Khurram Khan. I work as a senior product manager on adaptive payments. So one of the things, guys, we were thinking about is that we launched this more than about a year ago. And, we saw a lot of good, successful stories from a lot of developers. Developers actually jumped in and, used our platform and created a lot of innovative products. But at the same time, I constantly thought about that, okay, we have this cool platform that we built. Why not also try this internally? We have different product suites, that gets rolled out. So why not build certain features and product sets on top of our existing platform that we exposed externally? So with that, what we did was we started thinking and implementing some of the product suites internally. Well, guess what? You guys know about the mobile check capture. How many of you guys are familiar with this? Okay. Now, if you notice that this may not be rocket science, it's already out there. A couple of banks has already implemented this. But why is this so cool for PayPal? Well, with PayPal, you can literally take a picture of a check, get it deposited in your balance, and move it to any bank you want. You do not, these are totally, regardless of what bank you have, it's totally agnostic. You don't really have to rely on the bank to provide you with this capability. And it is built on top of adaptive payments. It uses implicit payments to process that check capture behind the scene. Another interesting idea, internally, and the product that we built was the mobile payment library. If you guys noticed that we announced that we launched the new mobile payment libraries on Android and iPhone, and both of them now have integrated with the adaptive payment capability. What it means is now you can actually download an MPL on Android phone or iPhone and create whatever business model suits for you, right? So if you want to do split chain payment behind the scene, or do parallel payment, or just do pre-approved payment, get that experience on your mobile phone. Well, you guys can do that with the new MPL. And as I mentioned, adaptive payments capabilities and features are available on that. Let me give you another example. Let's talk about PayPal apps. You guys saw the announcement on the stage yesterday in the keynote, and then FreshBooks demo. You saw that. We did enable all that capabilities internally on PayPal Apps platform as well. So if you are an application developer, you want to launch an application on the PayPal Apps App Store, you can utilize all these different capabilities. You don't really have to rely and get restricted to the limitations, and we want to get away from that. We want to expose all the possible capabilities from different product lines within PayPal, and this would be another good example. What about business payment? You guys saw a lot of buzz that we announced this 50 cents pricing. Wow, it's a big deal, especially for B2B payments and especially for use cases where you guys are involved in business-to-business payments. So the whole logic is not necessarily, yes, 50 cents is a big deal, but at the same time, how many people are writing checks these days? If you look at the cost associated for writing checks, paying out your vendors if you have a business, it's not instant. There is a postal cost for that, and there are other accumulating costs, and it's not instant. But guess what? Now with the business payment, you guys can instantly transfer funds from business to business account and just pay 50 cents, which is nothing. So, and guess what? It uses adaptive payments to do that. So another good use case. The other one, which I would want to share, is financial innovation. You guys know that we launched this product last Innovate, and then we've been actually constantly working with different financial institutes and rewards, how we can implement this on those platforms. Well, surprisingly, financial innovation is also using adaptive payments. So if you look at what came out of this financial innovation product, well, we were successfully able to integrate with all these well-known financial entities, the Bank of South Africa, Bank of Michigan, My Points and Rewards. So it's not restricted to financial institutes. Rewards, points, it's a common problem. A lot of people have credit cards. They use it over time. They accumulate all these points. They're stuck with it. They're only supposed to use that for their traveling engagements, or they're only supposed to use that for buying certain items. Maybe you don't want them, right? Maybe you just want to get some cash value out of that. There are some credit card companies who actually do allow you that after certain points, we will mail you a check. Still not instant. But by implementing these products slowly but surely, you guys are going to see much and more improved experiences in that space. Well, so that was all, powering our internal product line on top of PayPal. But as I mentioned, last year when we launched, we said, hey, these are all the different tools that we want to provide you. But we just can't think about every single use case, right? We want these tools to be as like building blocks for you guys to go build a spaceship, right? We can only think about so much. Well, guess what? Bling Nation, there were a bunch of smart guys in Palo Alto thinking about how can we use the RFID technology to enable payments. And when we launched this last time, as a product guy, I never thought about this RFID technology, right? And a year later now, you must have gone to the booth. Everybody of you should probably get a Bling tag. If you haven't, you should go visit the booth downstairs. They enable that. Behind the scene, what they're using is adaptive payment. Essentially, what you're doing is you're actually going to their website, doing a pre-approval with Bling Nation, and then behind the scene, they're doing split chain payments. So beautiful logic. You have the Bling tag, you can stick it up. It's a sticker that goes on your mobile phone. Go tap on the point of sale machine. You get an instant SMS that the payment was done. But this was not. This did not happen. Just after we launched, right? People have all these ideas. They absorbed that. They saw, the flexibility of these APIs, and how can we solve these different use cases. So another good example. How about Fourth Wall? You guys saw this again, a demo yesterday on the stage, how Fourth Wall enabled payments on a set-top box. Now, set-top box, guys, is the least smart machine out there. I don't want to use the word dumb, but it's not an intelligent machine, right? It's just a box. It does nothing, right? But if you look at a company like Fourth Wall, they made it smart enough to start processing payments behind the scene. And all they did was enable the adaptive payment APIs to process that payment. And again, when we launched this last year, I never thought about this use case. But apparently somebody made it happen. Another big one, how about RIM? So if you have BlackBerry users in this session, you guys must have noticed that if you go to the BlackBerry app world and download and pay with PayPal, behind the scene what they're using is pre-approved payment and simple payments. Again, built on top of adaptive payments. Now these are, yes, big companies, I get it. But Blink Nation is not a big company. They just started, they just built on top of this technology, and now they're a very successful story. How about Green Dot? Green Dot is just, you go walk in a store, you buy a card, and you bring that money into your PayPal account. Good use case, but it was very eye-opener for me. But apparently this is one of the top merchants who's actually using adaptive payments, and we see humongous volume going through our systems through their integration. Again, another innovation. And of course, many, many more. There's so many other success stories that developers were able to integrate with adaptive payments and build a lot of solutions on top of that. With that, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is the future. So what is the future, right? Are we saying that we have accomplished what we wanted? We are getting enough revenue. Are we good enough? No. We don't have to stop here, right? We can keep innovating. Now, we're ready to, crank out features, at a rapid pace, as long as you guys are going to push the envelope. So the challenge is back to you guys. How creative, how innovative are you to take this to the next level? You saw that, set-top boxes are already, processing payments. How about vending machines? Why don't you guys create an application that processes payments on the vending machines? How about voice, commands? How about, I always think about, driving my car and, I have a GPS. Why can't I make payments through GPS? Maybe I can, right? Somebody out here can probably create an application on GPS which accepts voice commands and process payments. So a lot of stuff to think about, With that, I'm actually going to pass on to, I would like to invite Daryl to come up on the stage and give us a quick demo. But just to wrap it up, by using these APIs, you're not really compromising the security and the safety. We're still available in 190 countries. You don't have to be PCI compliant, and then it's very flexible. And with that, I'm going to actually pass it to Daryl, who's going to actually quickly show us a demo. And here you go. As a matter of fact, if you can use this.
You want me to use that?
I can have this for Q&A.
Okay. Let's try this one. Okay, I'm Daryl Hatton. I'm founder and CEO of a company called Connection Point Systems. We're the makers of a product called Fundraiser. Fundraiser is a social fundraising application. It combines the powerful viral sharing capabilities of social networks like Facebook and Twitter with the powerful person-to-person payment capabilities of PayPal to make it easy for anyone to raise money for the causes they care about. Now, people need to raise money for all sorts of different things. You may have a friend who's sick. The community wants to get together and take care of them. There may have been a family tragedy, house burned down. Maybe something a little more fun. Somebody has gone and wanting to plan a retirement party and raise money from the neighborhood for that. You may have something a little bit. Who here's a parent? Got kids in school? You ever had to raise money for the kids to go on the road trip, or you want to buy new uniforms for the band, or you need to collect money because they're going to do this exchange thing with Washington? All sorts of different things there where you may be trying to raise money. So Fundraiser makes it easy for anyone to publish a professional social media fundraising campaign and share it virally through their social network. Lots of words. Let me show you. If you go to Fundraiser on Facebook.com, if you came in here, the first thing you could do is create your own fundraiser. It's very, very quick and easy to do. What we've done is I've actually created one already to save us a little time in this demo. But if we take a look here. Pardon me? We're not. Lovely. Okay, we started it before we walked up here. That's good. Do I still have internet? I still have internet. Love it.
You can't really blame it on the Wi-Fi this time.
I can't blame it on Wi-Fi this time. Okay, I'm going to show you something different, but this is going to be a real pain because I can't show you the new embedded payments. Let me quickly show you something, and we'll talk about it in a sec. Okay.
I don't want to say anything about Facebook, but
Have you ever had this thing where you do a demo and you say, never say anything more predictable than watch this? Okay.
What about the sandbox you're on? Maybe you can just...
Yeah, well, I'll try our third option here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we had
It's
such
back.
great luck yesterday. They worked beautifully.
Oh, it's a fundraiser with an S. Maybe that's the
No, I
value
put
you're on.
this is our sandbox.
Okay.
Okay, well, so much for a demo. Let you tell you really
Yeah.
quickly. But what we do, I'll stay by the mic so I don't have to yell at you. And then we let somebody take and design up a campaign on their using Fundraiser. They can go in and they can set a title on the campaign. They can send some text about it. They can select a video that they want to play. So, for example, if in this case we were going to show an example of raising money for a fellow named Steve Irving. Steve has cancer. He has medical bills that exceed his insurance, and he needs to pay for his medication. So we're going to help raise some money as a community to help fund Steve. And so I can put it together a little YouTube video, webcam myself, saying, hey, help my buddy Steve. This is what we're doing for them. Can you please give? And then publish this into the campaign, and we can share it through your social network. Now what we do is the first thing you do when you're creating a campaign is you collect the user's email address, who the recipient is going to be. Because we use the adaptive payment suite of products, and particularly the chained payment API, to make it easy for us to move money from the donor to the recipient securely, and then still take our commission for moving that money around at the same time. I'm thinking our servers have taken a hoop on us. So one more quick try and we'll see. If not, we're
Can we go straight to the
we're back.
Can we go straight to the UI that we can talk about?
Yeah, well, I was trying, oops, that I spelled wrong. No, that one's still dead, but let's go back.
Is it SB?
No. Yeah, SB was the...
Got it. I was hoping we can just walk them through this video if you have a video, or maybe just
Well, I can show one of
the
these.
preview. Yeah.
So, here, really quickly. So that gives you an example of what a campaign looks like.
Yeah.
The idea is I'll just pop over and show you the main thing. So you create the campaign up. We use the Adaptive Payments API. It makes it very easy to move the money around. And kind of a key point for everyone here is that in doing this kind of transaction, I don't want to have to worry about chargebacks as fundraiser. So if there's any complaint, because we're a secondary receiver, the person who received the majority of the money is responsible for the refund or if there's any sort of dispute. I don't have to worry about that. So I can keep my margins very competitive. Second thing about using adaptive payments is that it enables us to go globally right away. We've got customers in Canada, the US, the UK, France, Germany, a bunch of European countries, Australia, New Zealand, and I really didn't have to do anything special except indicate the currencies that we were supporting in there. So very convenient for me to take the business globally. So the big difference about what we do is instead of publishing a campaign like this out to a website, we deliver it into the news feed, the homepage of a user on Facebook. How many people here use Facebook? Okay, so we write the campaign out to your homepage. And let me just see if I can publish one here. Different example. Yeah. Okay, we'll share it. No, there's something definitely wrong. See if I can show my homepage. We'll stop torturing you with this in a second. See if anybody's shared a campaign here quickly. Come on, Facebook. One of the joys of developing for Facebook platform is this happens more than you'd like to know. Anyway, really quickly, so that we finish up, we publish it into the into your homepage. Let's see if I've got one from a little while ago. We might luck out. So see how here this is a campaign? Looks like a little thumbnail. When we publish it into this homepage, it also is published into the news feed of all of the friends of the person who's running the campaign. So they see this little thumbnail. Looks like a video, and when they click on it, we had to get some information from, make sure that Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't shut this down on us, because it's quite innovative. We're not running a video in the news feed. We're running our application. And you can see who's donating. This is a live fundraiser. This fellow's going off to write a thing in Mexico. But we can see who's donated to his campaign. We can see a bunch of information. And very importantly, we can give from right here. Now, I'll just try and quickly show you one more thing here. No, we're done. The point was, when you're doing a payment like this, it's very important to have the shortest possible path between when somebody decides to donate or decides to buy and the point where that money is actually coming out of your account. So what the demo that we had working beautifully yesterday is when you click on the Give button, the payment screen, the logging into PayPal, and the collection of approval of the payment is all done from within the Facebook environment. So you see our app running in the background, and then the dialog pops up, says log into PayPal, we collect the information, and do the transaction right away. And we get notified in the back end the transactions happen, and we encourage people to share this transaction and spread the campaign virally through their social net. Point about it is it's a very, very, very convenient experience for the user. So now that we've kind of completely screwed that for you.
It's all right. So,
thanks, guys. Sure.
Thank you. It's a little bit of a shame that the demo didn't work. But like you said, one, it was a really cool demo yesterday. You could see within the context of what you were looking at, within that, when he pops up and says, here's the campaign, at the point where you want to give, because these guys actually quickly did the in-context integration, you click a button. In that same JavaScript, you would get a little PayPal window, which allows you to log in and approve the payment, all while you can see your Facebook page in the background. So it really gives the user that impression that this is all kind of one experience. It's a lot less jarring. And these guys were able to do it really, really fast.
Yeah, kind of a key point is that integration did not take very, very long at all, and it was just smooths the experience of the user so much. To give you an example, not very long at all, 2 minutes in order, 2 days in order to try and do that type of integration. And then we added a little bit more in because we redesigned the flow to make it even more easy for people to use.
So with that, we wanted to take some questions, and someone's walking around with a microphone.
You talked about doing it globally, and in relation with the fundraiser demo. How does it work when you want to make a fundraiser from the U.S. in Canada or any other part in the world? How does that work in fundraiser, and how does the adaptive payments part work? And are there any limits regarding the amount of money that can be fundraised?
I'm sorry, are there any limits on?
And the amount of money that can be raised.
Okay, so a couple of different questions in there. Does it work cross-border or within an area? And the answer is yes. And the exchange rate is handled depending on kind of what the funding account is and what the recipient is. Fees are paid by the receiver. So in a lot of cases, they are just getting that money in, and then the transaction, the currency exchange is actually done by the donor because they're coming in from a different currency. Second thing is, are there limits on fundraising? We start with a limit of $2,000. Because one of the things that you need to know is if you raise more than that, the tax man wants to talk to you pretty quickly. So we make sure that everyone's aware of that before they're allowed to increase their limit. Also a little bit of know your customer stuff. Make sure that we know who they are before we let them raise more. If you're also raising for a nonprofit or political party, you need to be approved by PayPal in order to do that through an existing workflow they have.
How do you link the cross-border accounts if they're from a foreign bank, for example?
We don't. So all we're doing in the back end, as far as I'm concerned, I have a PayPal account that I put money into as fundraiser. And then the linkage of where those accounts are is all part of your PayPal account setup. You need a Premier or a business PayPal account to receive payments like this, to use the Adaptive Payments API suite.
Right. So just to add to that, if you're saying that if you're the recipient of the money and you're raising funds for a cause, right? It does not matter from which the account type, which country does this account belong to. As long as it's a receiver-enabled country that you can receive money in that country. So you, for instance, you can actually open an account in any European country, right? And then you can start collecting funds and donations all over the world. So you are the receiver side. You're allowed to receive money from all these different countries. Now the donor can be in Australia, it could be in the U.S., and they will go ahead and make those donations.
Once you receive it on your PayPal account, for example, if you're donating from the U.S. to Australia
Sure.
or any European country, how does that money move from the PayPal account to the foreign country bank?
So what you would need to do is once you have the PayPal account, one thing you would do is you will add a bank to that account, right? And we work with almost all, pretty much all major banks.
Another answer to your question is the way they do transactions goes from PayPal account to PayPal account. Once it's in the receiver's PayPal account, then based on the country they're in and based on the regulations of that country, there are some extra things. So for example, in the U.S., it's very easy to actually sweep the money from your PayPal account into your bank account.
Yeah.
And like I said, those are, depending on which country you're asking, some of them have different regulations. So probably a question more for after the session if you want to talk.
I think last question, we're just running out of time.
Hi. So you're monetizing this fundraiser application somehow, and in the context of the adaptive payment structure, the chain, or the split, how is your percentage of that coming back to you? Are you taking it out of the receiver's account, or is it being delivered to you as a split?
Exactly. We're taking out of the receiver's account. So money flows from the donor to the recipient using adaptive payments, chain payment. So that's the first leg. And then the money is taken from their account to pay us our commission. So
is that something that's a common feature of this adaptive payment, being able to do that?
Correct.
It is.
and it's so convenient because it's done instantly, and the notifications are immediate. So someone gets to know immediately they've had money donated to them, and we also get notified immediately our commission was paid.
So
Right. And think about
the sender sees the transaction having gone to the recipient's account in full.
Right.
And
Correct.
then the recipient sees that they've paid you back a commission.
Right.
Right,
So
exactly.
since recipient is residing in the center, he kind of sees everything, right? He sees the money, how much money came in, and then a percentage of that going out.
Okay.
But as to your point, consumer, yes, he just sees one payment done to this organization, and behind the scene, then whatever that split may be.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. I think time for one more question, or okay.
Does it, sorry. Do you know if it changes the tax deduction with the commissions coming out?
Well, because this is personal fundraising, in a lot of cases, there's no tax deduction. So, no, it doesn't change the tax deduction. If it's going in terms of a nonprofit, we're not a 501c3, so that part is not eligible for the tax deduction. Only the amount that's finally left in. Sorry, that's not totally true. The amount that goes into the group is the amount that is deducted in that case is tax deductible to the 501c3 or that
And
kind.
they would have to get that. They would have to get like that receipt from the receiver, from the ultimate receiver.
They can issue the receipt themselves in that case because the money's gone directly to the 501c3.
It's almost like when you make a donation via credit card, you still get the full amount in your tax receipt. So there's a fee portion. So it's essentially the cost of doing business for that nonprofit organization. So it goes in their books as a cost of doing business. But as far as you, the donor, are concerned, you donated $500.
Thanks.
All right, I think that's about it. Well, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for attending
you.
the session.